Hello, everyone. So I'm back with section 2 of the analysis of stanza 4. So let's get down to the second section of this stanza. So in the previous section, we were looking at how Aku was personally affected by the sea invading the land. And then we moved on to what she felt about how the gods had deserted her and how neglected she felt. So I'm moving on from that last line. It was a cold Sunday morning, which gives us a kind of an indication that it does not matter that Sunday is a holy day. The sea has no respect even for the holy days of the week, no matter what our beliefs are. So it was a cold Sunday morning, and now this poet moves us on to kind of a broader view from the personal effect, how the sea has personally affected Aku to kind of the devastation it has caused in the whole landscape. And we see that in the next couple of lines in the images presented. The storm was raging. Goats and fowls were struggling in the water, the angry water of the cruel sea, the lapping of the bark water at the shore, and above the sobs in the deep and low moans was the eternal hum of the living sea. So let's have a look at the images. We have the storm was raging. So we can see that even though the devastation has kind of taken place in the previous night, the storm is still raging. The storm was raging. The word "raging" is interesting because it gives us a indication that the sea is alive. It is kind of angry for some reason. So the use of the verb "was raging" is a, we could say, a kinesthetic image that reminds us that the sea is to be feared. It has something that it's still upset about. So it's an ongoing sort of a danger. The next image is kind of, it's quite pathetic. We have goats and fowls were struggling in the water. So the use of the word was struggling. So it's kind of a report of the things that the aftermath of the sea's invasion. So here we still have the animals struggling to survive. So this is a visual and I would say kinesthetic image because we have the sense of the movement of them trying to keep their heads above the water to keep alive. So it gives us a sense that the sea is quite cruel because it is killing helpless animals. These innocent animals need to fight for their life. The angry water. The goats were struggling in the water, the angry water of the cruel sea. So, when you say the goats and fowls were struggling in the water, we get a sense, okay, they were struggling. But when you repeat the word water with the adjective in front, the angry water of the cruel sea, we get a reminder, look, okay, this is basically a no-win situation because the sea is angry, it's going to get its way, it's going to kill you. So the negative adjectives, angry and cruel, kind of show us, okay, this is not kind of like an accident, it just happened to come in and these poor fowls, the sea doesn't mean to cause them harm. No, when you say angry and cruel sea, it gives us a sense that the sea is kind of deliberately doing this action. So it seems, even though it may not be the case, the sea just probably comes into the land because there are other factors that just play into it. But here it's conveyed in a way that it seems okay, it's a plan. The sea wanted to cause this damage, it wanted to kill these animals. It does not have a heart for how it is affecting these people, and here in this case, these animals. The sea is angry and it's cruel, it's heartless. The angry water of the cruel sea. Okay, the lapping of the bark water at the shore, and above the sobs in the deep and low moans was the eternal hum of the living sea. So I just want to comment, like there is no proper like kind of like structure here in the sense of the way the images are presented. Because we have the storm, then we have goats and fowls, then we have a reminder that the water is angry, then we have the lapping of the bark water, then we have again, the sounds of the people, sounds of the sea. It's kind of a little bit like, it's a bit like, it just gives us a kind of a holistic idea of kind of the chaos, that is there at the sea. But it's not like, there's no kind of a narrative here. It's kind of just a basic description of what is happening. So it tells us sea is angry, it's heartless, and when we say the lapping of the bark water at the shore, I felt a very interesting kind of a image, because normally when we say the sea is lapping, it's quite a pleasant image. Just imagine the sound that a lake. If you stand by the side of the lake when the waves come to the shore, there's a very pleasant sound, that lapping, that onomatopoeic sound of the sea, of the water, sorry, touching the shore and going back. But I don't think that is the kind of a sound that the sea would make in this instance. It's not probably a very pleasant sound. And the writer confirms that when we have the word bark water presented alongside that. So let me get to that. But before that, let's just comment on lapping. I've said here the relentless waves meeting the shore. It's usually quite a pleasant auditory image, but combined with bark water, tells us that the sea is not calm. So let's talk about this bark water, which is quite an unusual sort of combination of a noun. Bark can be obviously um, uh, describing the sound of a dog. It can basically even be the about the outer covering of a tree. So what does a writer mean by bark water? So I my personal idea was, okay, could it mean that the sea is making a loud sound like a dog? That could be one interpretation. Or could it be as brown, the sea, because it has basically taken things away from the land, and it has taken in all the mud from the land. The sea looks as brown as a bark of a tree. So that could be an interpretation. Or could it be that the sea has actually, felled some trees that were probably close the to the sea, and it has taken the trees back with it. So the lapping of the bark water, it could be basically the movement of all these trees and branches within the sea, that is making the floating debris seem to lap to and fro at the show. So it's a very, very, I don't know, unusual image, however way you look at it, but it kind of tells you that the sea is not to be taken lightly. It's a very powerful force of nature. And that we could say a very fresh image. The use of the word bark with water is one way in which the writer makes us imagine the sort of devastation that the sea can cause. So, as a result of all of this devastation, we have a reminder that the people are sobbing, they are, mourning, in making deep and low sounds, which convey the suffering that the sea has brought about with its invasion. And we are reminded that it is the sea that has done this, because here in this section, the word water, angry water, bark water, has been repeated a number of times to remind us, okay, it is this that is causing this um, pain to the people. And it's also, these words kind of they're usually connected with funerals and grieving, so it gives us a sense of how powerful this pain is, and how deep this loss is for the how deep the loss is for these people living by the shore. So even though these people are sobbing and weeping, the sea's sound is louder, and it's an eternal hum. So it can be quite an annoying sound, a hum which usually you think, okay, it's not so great. It reminds us, okay, it's an ever present danger. The sea is going to always be there, and it's going to always be a threat to them. So let's get on to the next part of the poem in the next video. See you then.